Hello, so this is my video discussion post for our World Lit class about Oedipus the King. And my thoughts on the video, my thoughts on the story was that it was really interesting and it was fun to read about. It wasn't dry like some of the other stories that I've read. But it's not something that I would read for entertainment because I'm just not a fan of all the mythology and stuff like that. But anyway, I had never heard this story before. It's very dramatic and there's a lot of accusations and murder and thriller aspects of it, which I tend to enjoy, but I like other things more. But anyway, Oedipus sets out to solve the murder because it will save the people from the plague, which kind of shows that he's a good king. So that's what we know about him in the beginning. And a prophet accuses Oedipus of killing Laius. The king orders him out, but not before the prophet can tell him about some other bad things about his future that Oedipus obviously does not want to know. But he tells him that he will have an incestuous marriage and a future of blindness, infamy, and wandering, which really probably freaked Oedipus out. Well, we know it did. And so he started to run from his fate and what he knew would be the end of his life as he knew it, really. And I think that's something that we all kind of do, is we try to run away from our fate, even though a lot of us don't know our fate, which is another thing. I think like we're asked questions like, if you could know the rest of your life, if someone could give you a book of the rest of your life, would you want to read it? Would you want to know how your life ends, exactly everything that's going to happen in your life? Why or why not? And I would always say that no, I wouldn't want to see it, because kind of like Oedipus, if we know, then we will spend the rest of our lives trying to change it or trying to do it differently, which will kind of consume our lives, and we won't end up having a life because it will all be about the fate that we're trying to avoid. So Oedipus kind of gets so caught up in running away from his fate that he gets caught up in it, which is, I think, another thing that a lot of us do to try to get out of what we think is just bound to happen. But anyway, after he hears the prophecy, he goes to the queen and says, and the queen says to ignore what the prophets are saying, because they told her that her husband would be killed by her son, which she says can't be true, and that didn't happen. So she tries to convince him to not believe the prophet. But Oedipus starts to get worried because he remembers when he was young, he was told by a priest that he was fated to kill his father and marry his mother, which freaked him out, obviously, because then he started to worry after he's already been hearing these stories from these other prophets about these things. And then he remembers killing a man earlier who looked like Laius, his father, or looked like Laius, and he sends for a witness. And a messenger tells Oedipus that Polypus and Merope, if I'm saying these names right, are not his real parents, and he was abandoned by the house of Laius, which really freaks him out. So he runs to the queen, and she tells him to stop doing what he's doing. So anyway, moral of the story, Oedipus was too caught up, like I said, in his fate, and he obviously had issues. He overreacted out of anger twice that we know of. He killed his father, and he blinded himself after learning how he had destroyed his fate. So we just kind of see how he messed up, kind of. And anyway, I enjoyed the story, and I thought it had a good, it was interesting, and it was not boring to read about, for sure, with the incest and murder and things like that. But I also did think that it had a lot of good messages, like underlying messages that we can learn about. So anyway, overall, it was an interesting story, and something fun to read, but not something that I would read for entertainment or something I would choose.